Hello, and welcome to We the Students, a political discussion sponsored by Nauset Regional High School's AP U.S. Government and Politics program, in collaboration with Nauset's video production class. The federal minimum wage now stands at $7.25 per hour, and has remained so since 2009. Many cities and states have higher minimum wage laws. In fact, the minimum wage law in Massachusetts now stands at $11 per hour. Some people say it's time the federal government raises the minimum wage to $15 per hour, while others say the government should not dictate what private businesses pay their employees. Should the federal government raise the minimum wage to $15 per hour? That's the topic of our discussion over the next 30 minutes. I'm your host, Neely Rose, a senior here at Nauset and a veteran of the AP U.S. Government program. Just for the record, opinions expressed here belong to the panelists and are not the views of Nauset Regional High School or of the school district. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a special email address for our panel today. Please feel free to email your thoughts and suggestions about today's topic so we can continue this discussion in our classroom. And now let's meet the panel. On my right is Holiday Bukhar, Evelyn Rose, and Jackson Montero. And on my left is Diana Duarte, Lily Bueller, and Tobin Brown. My first question is, what is the purpose of the minimum wage?
The purpose of the federal minimum wage is to make it so that businesses can't decide completely what they pay their employees, and that makes it so that they can't completely underpay them.
As a response, in terms of the moral argument, I see where you're going in terms of, what you believe that a business should or shouldn't be allowed to pay an employee. I think that's completely wrong in the sense that any employee and employer make a voluntary and consensual contract, okay? And you make that very clear, voluntary and consensual. In a capitalist society such as America, all employees and employers create these voluntary contracts with each other to set wages, right? And what you're doing with the minimum wage is you are actually depriving an employee of their right to bargain with an employer for whatever wage they want. For example, if I'm an employer and you're an employee, and I tell you, I'm sorry, I can't hire you because I can't, I have to pay $15, or else I can't hire you. But you, without the minimum wage, would be able to say, hey, you know what? You're hiring some other guy right now for $17. I'll work for $13 an hour. I'll work for $13 an hour and do the exact same amount of work as that other person, right? So what this actually does on an actual more macro scale, what it actually does, it hurts the entire essence of minorities as well as young individuals who want to gain entrance into the workforce, because now what you're doing is you're raising the skill ceiling, right? You're raising the skill ceiling for individuals who want to get a job. So overall, what you're actually doing is you're actually hurting those that you're trying to help.
What do you mean by the skill ceiling?
The skill ceiling meaning that if you're paying someone $15, right? For example, McDonald's workers, right? They do a very simple job. As long as you honestly, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. These are McDonald's workers who use their arm to flip a burger. Okay, now that's great that they're doing that, but to pretend that that's worthy of $15 an hour is a little abstract here. Okay. What I'm trying to say is that the skill ceiling is not, or the skill level is not justified for the pay that they're actually getting. That's what I'm trying to say.
You also have to look at, since Tobin mentioned the fast food industry, you also have to think of what job layoffs would come with a $15 minimum wage. The vice president of White Castle Burgers stated that he would be forced to close almost half its stores and let go of thousands of workers if the federal minimum wage was raised to $15 an hour. So that's an also important aspect to look at, especially since 50% of the minimum wage earners work in the fast food or related industries.
Well, a counterpoint to the why do people deserve $15 an hour to flip burgers would be, to get that higher level job generally, you would need a higher education, like college, and you need money to pay for college. So if the minimum wage was 15, more students would be able to get jobs and get more money so that they could pay for college. Eventually, everything kind of goes off of each other, and they would be able to get that higher job with their college education.
Yeah, and going off of what Evie's saying, fast food jobs and jobs such as those are stepping stones so that later on in your life you can get a better career and you could go to either attend college or go back to school. And airport workers, nurse assistants, fast food workers, retail assistants people, the list could go on. They work extremely hard, and most of them are still living at or a small bit above the poverty line.
So these minimum wage jobs, though, these are typically entry-level jobs, and they're where people start. However, if the minimum wage is moved to $15 an hour and there are job layoffs, there would be less entry-level jobs to go around. So with less entry-level jobs, how would people continue to move up the ladder?
Well, it might seem like that in the short term, but with the pay increase for these workers, the money that they're going to spend is going to go right back into the economy. And with a stronger economy, new jobs are created. And all those people that might not have gotten that job at Ace Hardware because the employer couldn't pay them there, they're going to get a lot better new jobs because the economy is doing so well.
So speaking of spending more money because you're earning more money, that's also going to affect the cost of housing. That could also have an impact on that because especially rental housing in areas like cities where housing is already a problem. Because in theory, landlords, since they see that you're making more money, they could easily start charging you more rent.
Well, right now what we are aiming to do long term is basically doubling the minimum wage. And it's completely ridiculous to say that, so prices would, there's no getting around it, prices of things probably would increase, but not double. So let's say if something was like $100, they're not going to make it $200 just because the minimum wage increased. And also...
So if you were going to buy a gallon of milk for $6 of your $7 paycheck, when your paycheck gets increased to $15, that milk is not going to be now $12.
Well,
it might increase a little, but you're still going to be gaining money in the long run.
Let's make something very clear. Where do you think this money is coming from?
The money used to increase the pay of these workers, we will get that money, and so when people make more, they will have to rely less on the government spending of Medicaid and Medicare, and the money we save there will go into paying those workers.
The money you save from government. So you do realize that a business, as a company in itself, receives money from the consumers, right? In the capitalist economy, the consumers pay for the products that the business provides. And what you're doing is when you raise this price. First, actually, let's get something very clear here. Why $15? Okay, why not $55? Why not $100?
Because
that's a living wage.
Yeah, and according
to living wage. So $15.01 isn't a living wage?
It might be.
Or $14.99. Why not $14.99? Or why not $15.01? Why can't you go 1 cent higher?
Why 7 1/4?
No, I'm asking you. Why aren't you fighting for a $16 minimum wage instead of a $15 minimum wage? Yeah.
Over time, what we're arguing for is that the minimum wage should gradually go up, and by maybe 2024, the minimum wage
This isn't
will be
gradual.
$15.
This is a double in the minimum wage.
Exactly.
If you want to look at the minimum wage, actually over time it has fluctuated. It has gone up and down. What you're doing is you are doubling it immensely, right?
Right,
and
but we wouldn't do it all at one time.
It wouldn't
stagger it.
It wouldn't go from 2018 to 2019, 7 1/4 to 15. It would be a couple of dollars
You do realize
each year.
businesses have to catch up to that, right? They have to actually
Exactly.
keep
Yeah,
producing.
So
that.
they're
pushing that.
You don't have the spike, which means that businesses will have time, because it's only going up a little bit each year, to cover and adjust.
So you're assuming that in every case, every business in America will excel. You're telling me that right now?
I'm not telling you every business will.
So you're guguaranteeing that businesses will fail.
I said I'm not telling you. Oh, I'm not
You're guaranteeing that
No,
businesses
I'm
will
not.
fail. But you just told me that you were actually expecting $15 minimum wage to be implemented, right, over a gradual course of years. Fair enough. But you do realize that the money that the businesses get come from consumers. And when you raise prices, people, as we've already kind of established, they will either go to another place or they will stop buying from you, which will shut down your business.
People are making more money.
Which makes it more difficult for people make more money when
people are making more money, which
consumers
means
pay.
they can spend more on those consumer goods that
putting
they
more
need.
money-
Where does that money come from? It comes from me. It comes from you. It comes from everyone else. When you pay for a burger at Burger King, when you pay $2 for a burger, right, and then you realize one day, Well, the burger's gone up to $7, right? So why would I go here? I'll go to McDonald's, and when they're still selling it for $3.
That's just called
What?
business. That's
But you're artificially inflating the prices, which creates an issue because the businesses can't keep up with that. You're gonna have to lay someone
Well,
off.
the minimum wage hasn't been changed since 2009, so there definitely needs to be a change.
Yeah,
Because
but
inflation and the education, everything in our country has developed since then.
yeah, it needs to keep up with inflation, and right now in 2018, $115 is equal to what in 2009 was just $100. So of course, inflation has changed. The minimum
let-
wage needs to be updated as well.
That's very interesting because I have here actually recorded one of the highest recorded highest recorded minimum wage values was in 1968, right? 1968 was $1.60, right? But adjusted for inflation, that's roughly 10. I'll give you even $11, right? $11 by today's standards. However, if we look at 1968, and here I have it's a little bit small, but in 1991, right? The minimum wage was $4.25, right? Not bad, but that's a little bit later. However, adjusted for inflation, that's $7.78. How in the world could that go down? If you're saying inflation makes the prices go up, then why would the minimum wage go down? Why would they, adjusted for inflation, why would the minimum wage drop from $10.74 down to $7.78? Why?
just because the inflation had a little bit of a down period between 1960s and 1990s doesn't mean that it had to go down between 2009
So you're justifying this
and
one year.
2018.
So you're justifying this 1 year, which by the way isn't even $15. You're justifying this 1 year as a valid argument to therefore create a minimum wage that isn't even equivalent to that inflation.
1968 is not the reason why we're increasing the minimum wage.
But that's the highest rate that there ever was.
We're increasing the minimum wage to keep people above the poverty line so they can have a life for them and
Yeah,
their
right.
families.
Let's take a minute. If somebody works a full-time job of 40 hours a week on the minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, they will be making $15,080 a year, which is $20 above the federal poverty line of $15,060 a year. $20. So our minimum wage right now is keeping people above the poverty line by $20, and if that isn't ridiculous,
However, according to federal labor statistics, about 70% of minimum wage workers work fewer than 35 hours per week.
If the minimum wage is raised to $15, about 35% of the benefits will go to people who already make 3 times the poverty line.
Set up for why is that bad? As long as it's not just people who are making the minimum wage, everybody. It's not bad when everybody can make more money, not just minimum wage.
You also have to look at how raising the minimum wage will affect employee benefits. In a 2014 study of 400 CFOs in the U.S., 40% of them said they would reduce the employee benefits if the minimum wage was raised to just $10 an hour.
Not only employee benefits, but speaking from personal experience, after the increase from $6.55 an hour to $7.25 an hour in 2009, my family has a business in Toronto. It's a small business, and we had to go from 11 employees to 8 employees because we just couldn't afford to hire as many employees. So it decreased our jobs for other people.
Well, there are personal examples on the other side too. My cousin, who lives in Virginia, is a William and Mary, which is a very good college-educated student who passed his bar test and is applying to law school. And he works at a law firm, and he is making less money than I do working in the summer at a restaurant serving people lunch and dinner. And that is ridiculous.
Let me get something very
He's-
clear. Who
my-
are you
college-
to demand who are you or any one of us to demand of a business owner to pay someone a certain wage? Who are you to intervene in that contract? Again, as I said before, who are you to intervene in that contract between the two parties and demand the business owner to pay a certain wage to the employee?
we're
to an
people who
employee?
don't want everybody else to have to live in poverty.
The people
Really?
who
So-
want good lives.
That's very interesting because I'll tell you right now, when you create a minimum wage such as this, what you're doing is you're raising a price floor. Here's a graph for you to explain what that is. So a price floor is basically a minimum wage, for example, right here. And when you raise the price floor above a market equilibrium is, in case the minimum wage is $7.25, right? What you've done is you've raised this above the market equilibrium, creating surplus unemployment. Okay? So when you create surplus unemployment, of course, it's a bad thing, right? So when we have more unemployment, obviously you're creating more issues. So that in itself proves that minimum wage is it's going against itself. Furthermore, on the point of equality, because I understand a lot of people are trying to fight for a more equal pay, equal work type thing, which is understandable to a point. To the point that which, for example, the women's movement, right, is very adamant about fighting for, equal pay, equal work. However, what that actually, the problem that creates is that you're not really fully thinking out the issue, right, of the minimum wage, of what a minimum wage, what kind of an effect that would have. All right, so let's say the minimum wage is implemented. All right, suddenly today it's $15 an hour. Okay.
That wouldn't happen because it's going gradually.
Fair enough. Actually, you know what? That's fair enough. That's fair enough. But you're saying there's going to be a set minimum wage and it will gradually increase, right?
Right.
What you are saying to a woman, for example, or any minority, right, who wants to have that job, let's say you have that job, right? And as a woman, Evie wants to have that job as well. But the minimum wage is set at $13 an hour right now. You're telling Evie that she cannot go up to the business owner that is hiring you and say, hey, you know what? I'll work for, I said this before, I'll work for, $11 an hour instead. By the minimum wage law, you are depriving her of her right to go up to a business owner and bargain for a wage. If that in itself is not inequality, then I don't know what
So
is.
are you arguing for like no minimum wage at all so that people can bargain for jobs?
Honestly, in the
That's
reality,
barbarian.
that's barbarian. A voluntary contract is barbarian?
No, it's a fight for a way to keep yourself alive and support your family.
You do realize that businesses are competing for you, for us, as laborers. They want us. We
Yes.
are the valued individuals, right? And we are able to bargain. If we don't work, then they can't have jobs. They have to pay us a certain amount. And if we suddenly say, hey, you know what? If the businesses suddenly say, hey, you know what? We're not going to hire anyone, then they're going to fail as a business as a whole.
So what you said about the gap between if we implemented the minimum wage of $15, the wage gap between men and women would completely disappear. There's no more. There would be in minimum wage jobs like fast food, everybody would get paid. Men and women, doesn't matter. They'd get paid the same.
All right. Well, if you want to debate the gender wage gap, I mean, we can go into a whole subject of the decisions that women make. But I don't think we want to go into that. I think we just stick with the minimum wage.
Let's move on and talk about, is there any merit to the idea that $15 is worth more in Kansas than it is in New York City? And does this support the argument that raising the minimum wage should be done on the statewide basis rather than on a national basis?
I think that makes sense, a statewide basis. If money is worth different amounts in different places, then I think that, we already have different state minimum wages. Like in Massachusetts, obviously, we're really lucky that it's $11 an hour.
In Virginia, it's 7.25.
Yeah, it definitely is important to look at it on a state-by-state level, especially since, like you said, with New York versus Kansas, the housing costs in New York are far greater than they are in Kansas, and $5 in Kansas will get you a lot less than it would $5 in New York.
Yeah, and also housing is obviously different prices in different places. So in big cities, housing is going to be more expensive. And it's set, we have a statistic here from the National Low Income Housing Coalition. Someone must earn about $15.50 an hour to afford a modest one-bedroom apartment in a city. So that minimum wage in cities should be higher than in rural areas such as Kansas.
However, going back to what I said about how raising the minimum wage could have an effect on the housing market, like you said, in cities where there is so few housing to begin with, what's going to stop landlords when they see that people are making more money from charging their renters a higher rent?
Well, they wouldn't be doubling they would likely not be doubling the amount that they are charging. So, even a little bit prices probably would increase, but there would also be more money in the hands of the people who are looking to buy.
But generally speaking, when the minimum wage right now is $7.25, if someone goes out and wants to buy an item that's $7, if the minimum wage is increased to $15, all of those items that were $7 aren't going to jump up to $14.
True.
They're just going to jump to $8 or $9.
But
So it's not going to be a complete.
It's still a net increase for the working.
But now there's more money in
True,
people's hands.
But if you're making more money, so we said the housing costs could go up as well. So could the cost of consumer goods. So could the cost of other things than just housing, which would ultimately, how is $15 going to help you when the prices of everything you need to survive could go up as well?
Right. What she's saying is the purchasing power of the money that they get isn't going to be equivalent to what they had before, right? So $15 beforehand isn't going to be the same because you've artificially inflated the prices, right? So people are suddenly realizing, okay, people have more money. People aren't stupid. More people have more money, therefore the prices are going to raise. So even though you're saying, oh great, they have $15 now, $15 more per hour than they had before, what good is that if the prices are raised to doubled or even more, right? It's the actual purchasing power of that money it doesn't go up at all.
Yeah, you have to look at the higher the wage a person is being paid, the higher the cost of the production of the product. And with the higher the cost of production, the higher a product's going to cost a person to buy.
But the prices aren't going to double like the minimum wage would. Like, not the price of everything is not going to double, but the minimum wage is. So people
landowners and businesses will account for the wage increase, right? I mean,
they can account for it, but they're not going to double the prices.
Let's make something very clear. I mean, jobs are going to be lost anyway. If a business owner has $30, for example, right, to pay their 3 employees, let's say they have 3 employees, and all of a sudden you raise the minimum wage to $15. Someone's going to have to get laid off. Someone's going to get fired.
Very true.
Right?
In 2014, the Congressional Budget Office projected that a raise in the minimum wage from $7.25 to just $10.10 would result in a loss of 500,000 jobs.
Think about it this way. The money that those people that still do have the jobs are making will get recycled back into the economy, and that will create many more new jobs and probably better for those people that didn't get that chance.
But
Right.
that
Think about
takes
the jobs
time.
lost.
That's 500,000 jobs lost.
Well,
and it's
we're
going to take
increasing the
time to
minimum wage.
rebuild these 500,000 jobs.
We're increasing the minimum wage staggered, though, so it's not going to be all at once. It's not going to be
not-
a bunch of unemployed employees all at once.
It's not like next week 500,000 people are just going to randomly be unemployed.
Exactly. If we raise
It's
it over
not-
a period, then the small businesses and businesses in general are going to have a time to recover.
And you're-
Have a plan to how to handle this.
Fair enough. So let me ask you this question: are you going to stop at 15
Yes.
I mean,
Really?
no, we could. I mean,
For the foreseeable future.
for the foreseeable future?
Until
so
inflation-
when do
until
you raise
inflation
We're going to keep
becomes
up with
so-
inflation.
But I already
Things
just proved
change.
to you that inflation is irrelevant because I told you a decade later, after '68, when the minimum wage was the highest, the actual price went down to $7 and however many cents it was.
That
we
was
can't
so
see
I've
into
just
the
proved
future,
one
and we
time
can't see what's going to
interval.
happen with our country.
It fluctuates. What I'm
Right.
saying is
Yeah, so
inflation
the minimum
fluctuates.
wage should
And you
change.
just suddenly jumped that all the way up from $7 or $9, whatever, $7.25 to $15, and then
not.
now later you're going to be bringing it up to $16. What you're not seeing is the long-term effects of the inflation that you're creating, the issues with the inflation. Okay. Which affects overall the purchasing power that people have, consumers have, in the economy. It affects everyone, right? This doesn't just affect suddenly these individuals, these employees suddenly have $15 more and now everyone's rich. I mean, if that's the case, why not just get helicopter money? Why not just drop thousands of dollars to everyone, right? Why not? Because it doesn't work that way. Money has to be produced. Products and services have to be produced in a capitalist economy, right? And it doesn't work where you just take money from people and just give it to employees just because they need more money.
well, bottom line, I think that what we're trying to say is that $7.25 an hour is not enough for people to live off of. It's a starving wage, not a living wage, and it needs to be changed.
And obviously, small businesses and businesses in general will struggle, but the vast majority of families who are in poverty currently will definitely be greatly benefited in the long run.
You see large corporations, though, that have already struggled based on the states raising their minimum wages. Walmart, for example, has had to postpone the opening of future stores and even close some stores due to the fact that they're having to pay their workers much higher wages.
Yeah. There are going to be, like, at the beginning, things are going to change. I mean, the minimum, things are going to change. Some jobs are going to be lost, but in the future, all of the money is just going to be able to kind of circle around, and I think that it'll
Yeah,
just be
but if
better.
if it's harming already the largest corporations in our country, what is that going to do to small business owners?
Well, think about it this way, like we said with Walmart. The people that are working at those Walmarts, they didn't open the new stores, but there's still people working there. Those people making more money, they could go off and create their own business that will hire hundreds of people that didn't get to work at those Walmarts. The money will get recycled back into the economy and create jobs for more than just would have been lost at not opening a Walmart.
And talking about small businesses, when you increase the minimum wage, it'll help them by providing additional buying power to their customers and enabling them to buy more and having
I just
money.
disproved that. Because of inflation. We just stated that because prices go up, they don't have more buying power. They actually lose buying power, or at least stays equal to whatever the market equilibrium will follow that. Right? You're not giving them more money. Everything catches up with each other. Right? I mean, I can say this over and over again. The more money you give people, the more money, the prices are going to rise according to the wages given. I mean, it's just simple economics. I mean,
But
that's just
what
how
we're
it
saying
works.
is that prices aren't going to double just because the minimum
they're
wage
going
does.
they're going to I mean, they're going to raise to accommodate for this for these
Are you saying they're
this,
going to
this
double?
wage increase.
No, you're right. They're not going to double. However, the cost of food, the cost of clothing, the cost of housing, all of that combined, if all of it goes up, that's where I think Tobin is trying to get at,
Yes.
that it's going to add up.
Because laborers cost money. As individuals, as workers, we cost money, right? When we go to work, you cost money. Businesses have to pay you. Businesses aren't buildings, by the way. These are people. These are people who receive money from consumers by the products that they sell, and they give back to the workers, so you guys can make more of what they're already making to further, progress their production curve, right? So they can actually produce more. So when you take away from that, you are actually degressing their production, their overall ability to expand as a business, right? You're taking money away from them and giving it to an employee, but that's not recycling more money into an economy if all of a sudden that business is going to raise the prices and, there's no actual recycling of money is what I'm saying.
There is
Okay,
because
let's move on from this. So we actually haven't talked about this yet in the debate. What would be the impact on poverty levels if the minimum wage was raised?
well, poverty would decrease because people would have more money. People would be able to hopefully get themselves in better positions. Right now, someone must, as I've previously stated, somebody must earn $15.50 an hour to afford a modest one-bedroom apartment. It's a starving wage right now.
Yes, it is.
I completely disagree. Because if you look at black minorities, for example, African Americans in America, right? Just from the age group of 16 and above, I mean, the unemployment rate for them is roughly around 20 to 23%, right? And it's gone down since like the 60s, however. But to pretend that raising the minimum wage to $15 is suddenly going to increase the ability for black minorities, for example, or Hispanic, whatever it may be, to get jobs it's delusional. I mean, if you raise the minimum wage to $15, an employer, a business owner, they're going to want someone who's worthy of that money. They're going to want someone who's actually skilled. So what you're doing is you're isolating those individuals, those younger workers like us, for example, and they're instead going to hire someone who's already has a lot of experience, who has more skill, who's more qualified for that wage.
Well, think about local businesses on Cape Cod. They're not like ice cream shops in the summer. They're not looking to hire older, more skilled people. That's like the lifeblood of our economy is the summer tourism and hiring high school teenagers to be able to uphold their business. Like they're not going to go out and hire 30-year-olds. They're hiring high school teenagers.
And you're willing to pay. You think that that an ice cream a vendor is going to pay $15 an hour for someone to scoop ice cream, which literally a 3-year-old can do. All you do is take an arm and pull out the ice cream. I'm sorry vet techs get paid $15, $16 an hour. I don't think that's equivalent. I just don't. I'm sorry. I just don't believe that that's an equivalent
Well,
job.
as we said before,
set.
there are definitely changes that are super unfair. Like with Jackson's cousin, he gets paid $8 an hour and Jackson gets paid
He
$11.
works at a law firm.
Sure. Well,
He's going to law school.
Well, you know what? Think about this. You know what? Let's say the gradual increase happens. What do you think other people are going to say? Other people have jobs. Let's say you were getting paid $7.25, and we work at the same place, and I was already getting paid 15, right? All of a sudden, you're getting paid 11. And then I'm still at 15. The next year, you're at 12, and then I'm still at 15, and then maybe I get 16. You get the point. You're increasing faster than I am, but you're doing technically a lesser skilled job. More other people, they're gonna want more money for their jobs because if you guys are getting paid more money, where's my money, right? I want more money. So overall, more employees you're gonna see more riots in the streets for these guys are getting paid money. I want more money. Everyone's going to want more money. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't.
You also need, sorry.
Also, you're saying that he's making less than you, but if you raise the minimum wage to $15 all around, you're going to be making the same amount. So it really doesn't solve the problem as well as it's intended to.
It's not the fact that necessarily I'm making more than him. It's just the fact that he's making so little at a high-skilled job.
Well, it's
Okay,
a
so
higher skill.
unfortunately, we're about out of time, so we're going to have to hold the discussion here. Again, we invite our viewers to email us your thoughts and suggestions about today's topics so we can continue this discussion in our classroom. We thank Nauset High School's television production class and Lower Cape TV for making this valuable experience possible for all of us. That concludes another segment of We the Students, a political discussion sponsored by Nauset Regional High School's AP US Government and Politics program. I'm Neely Rose. Thank you for watching.